What's up, everybody? It's Chase with Energy to Conquer. And yesterday I went over my 75 hard story, kind of my ups and downs, my many failures, and just kind of my process and what I guess 75 hard's done for me, and kind of really just I guess how it's changed my life since doing it and going through phase one. But today I just want to talk about why you shouldn't talk someone into doing 75 hard. That was probably one of my failures that I didn't mention in that. But, you know, a lot of times we start doing this, we want somebody to do it with, whether it's a friend, family member, whatever. And we try to talk somebody into doing it. Usually we're hyped up, and I'm guilty of that. And I talked my wife into doing 75 hard with me. And what happened, I didn't mention this yesterday. And I'll put the link to that video if you want to go watch the full story. But, you know, what had happened was, I guess the coronavirus had happened, and everything was like freaking out. They shut down school. We ended up taking our 3-year-old, I guess he was 3 at the time, he's 4 now, so 3-year-old, 3.5-year-old at the time. We had taken him out of daycare, and I worked from home, and my wife was working from home. And so I got an 11-year-old and a 3-year-old. I guess he was 10 and 3.5. So we took him out of daycare for that time. And it was just chaos. Like, I'm trying to run a business, she's trying to work. I ended up neglecting a lot of my business and saying I'm going to do it in the evening. I'd take care of the kids during the day, and by the time the evening rolled around, it's just there was nothing left. I was spent. And so, you know, in a period of about a month, I think we had my son out of daycare for 5 weeks. And so a period of about a month, like, end up gaining, like, I don't know, 15 pounds, maybe 20 pounds, but just drinking way too many beer and eating way too many pizzas. It's just too easy in the evenings, and just kind of hit a bad spot, just mentally, just kind of hit a downturn. But anyways, after about a month of that, I was like, whoa, we got to back up here. This ain't working. Got to change something, because this is not going nowhere, and got to do something different. So I jumped back into 75 hard. And before that, I'd been dealing with a back injury up for like 6 months before that. So it's the reason I stopped at 75 hard before. So I was like, I gotta get back into this. My back was feeling better, and I can't continue down this path. So I'm gonna have to do something to change mentally and my mindset. So I ended up talking my wife into doing it as well, because she was kind of home. And a key word there is talk her into it, because it was not her idea. It was more of my idea. And she never really listened to the podcast. Never really, you know, dug any of the information out for herself, and that was 100% my fault. So it was really third-party information, which should have showed me that she was not really doing it for the right reasons. You know, I would tell her, and we talked about it, and she agreed with me, but at the end of the day, I was kind of hyped it up and was talking, I guess, her into it. And she did it, and she went through it, and she did complete it with me. But she did it for me, more or less, after she got into it, because she didn't want to quit. And really, she was going through it for more of a fitness thing. And the reason this is a bad thing, and the reason you shouldn't talk someone into it, is because of this. After she got done, like, when I got done, I was on fire. Like, I was on top of the world, peak state mentally, physically. When she got done, she was like trying to get a college kid to read a book or sign up for a course after they just finished their college degree. They're like so jaded on learning, because they've had to cram so much for so long, they completely reject it. And honestly, most of them reject it for life after that, any type of personal education, personal development. Most, unless you're a doctor or something like that, like a lot of the lower degrees that it's not required for, you know, I guess keeping up with things that's changing, like they completely reject that. And the idea of them signing up for courses or reading books for personal growth or whatever, just they're like, screw that for the most part. But that's kind of where she was at with 75 hard, because I had talked her into it, and she was basically doing it and going through the motions because she didn't want to quit. But at the same time, she wasn't really going after it for the full intentions of the mental growth and the things. But even though she was growing, I could tell she was reading books, and she was like just on a different level mentally and physically as well. But like when she was done, she was done. And it's like, well, nothing to do with reading, personal development. They want nothing to do with diet. They don't want to do nothing to do with a workout for like 6-8 months after that, right? So I say that to say, be careful. Don't talk people into it. And here's what you need to know, and here's what you need to look for. If they're not willing to seek out the information for themselves, whether they buy the book and read it, whether they get the podcast. Like, if they're not willing to seek out that information and listen to the podcast, it ain't just a one podcast, there's a whole series of podcasts around that. And I've got a playlist on Spotify. I'll link that in the description as well. Like, there's a whole content around this. And I knew that something was going on with 75 Hard because I would listen to it when it first came out. And probably about a year later, like I said, I'd end up hurting my back and wasn't able to finish it. But my wife, when she was doing it, a friend that she was friends with, I guess growing up, was doing it, and she was in a group, and I thought that was strange because she's ultra liberal, and I'm like, there's no way she's listening to Andy Frisella and even listening to that podcast, because if she knew anything about anything that he says, there's no way she'd be doing that program. And so I Googled it, and I realized all this thing's like in all these different publications, and it was become this fad thing about really more of a fitness program than a mental toughness and kind of winning that war within. And so I guess that kind of keyed me in that there was something up, and people were kind of doing this more for the fitness side of it, more of, I guess, the vanity sides of this instead of the mental growth and just kind of that developing that grit and determination. And so, you know, I say that to say, if they're coming into this and you're having to tell them and you're having to feed them the information of what to do or how to do it or about the program, and they're not willing to search that information out for themselves, like, just don't do it. Just walk away. You just do your own thing. Like, you're better off doing it by yourself anyway than jading them. And eventually, if you do it and start getting results, let that feed them and let that want them, I guess, have them seeking, well, what are you doing? Like, I see the changes in you. Tell me more, right? Instead of you trying to force it on them or talk them into doing something they don't want to do that they're half interested in, because they're not fully interested. They're never going to get the full benefit out of this. And you're doing them a disservice when you would be doing them a better service if you would just be the example, kind of be the lighthouse to guide them, do your own thing, and make it work for you, and let them see the positive changes in you, and then let them come to you asking, and then they may be fully engaged and want to know more and be willing to put in more effort because they see the changes in you. And you know what? Going through this thing by yourself, you know, it's not that hard. Like, that is part of the game, right? It's doing it by yourself. You know, it's really a battle within, and it's not a battle with anyone else. So it almost makes it just a little bit harder, but that's even better because you're going to get more out of it. You're going to learn more about yourself, and you're just going to, you know, you don't necessarily need someone there to, I guess, keep you accountable, because you learn to be that accountability for yourself. So it's almost like, yeah, it sucks, and yes, it's harder some days, and yes, you're almost at a disadvantage, but really, that's giving you a bigger advantage because you're going to be able to take more from this, because when you finish this program, you're going to know that you don't need someone, and you're not going to be dependent on someone else to do whatever it is that you want to do or need to do in your life. And here's the thing with that is, you know what, your mission, your goals, whatever, you know, is put in your heart that you want to do for your life, like your life ambition, guess what? That's yours. Most people ain't going to have that same ambition. If you can find someone else with that same ambition that matches exactly to what yours is, you're like winning the lottery, right? So at some point, you're going to have to figure out how to navigate life on your own anyway. So look, just do your own thing. Let it be their idea. If it's your idea and you're having to force feed them or spoon feed them, not really force feed them, but spoon feed them the information, you know it's not right for them. And it's not that it's not right for them. Maybe it's just the wrong timing, or maybe they don't fully understand. So you got to be the change that you want to see in the world, and then, you know, let that influence their decision, and then let them come to that decision and realization that they need to do something, and they need to, you know, more of what you got going on in their life. So you got to be the example. Don't talk people into this program. That's not what it's about, and you're going to do them a disservice. I just want to share that with you guys. It's kind of my story. It's one of the places that I screwed up on this program. And I know I'm not the only one in that boat. And so just know that coming into it, be careful when you're trying to talk friends and family members or whoever into doing this with you. Like, it needs to be their idea, and they need to seek out the information for themselves. And that's kind of the test of whether how hard you need to push. If they're not willing to listen to the podcasts and seek out the information of what this is really about, then just stop, like you don't. So hope you guys have a blessed day. I'm not saying you can't recommend people. Some people's going to be on the fence, right? And they're just going to be afraid to commit, and that's one thing. But, you know, if they're on the fence and they're willing to listen to the stuff and kind of feel it out a little bit and learn for themselves and seek out the information for themselves, that's one thing. You can help nudge them off the fence. But having to completely talk someone into it to the point that you have to give them all the information because they're not going to go look it up if you don't give it to them, then that's not right for them. So do them a favor, do yourself a favor. Hope you guys have a blessed day.